Hello everyone, my name is Paul Third, and this week I have 10 things about mixing on headphones that you may or you may not already know. Number 1, you should be listening to your headphones at a level of about 80 to 85 dB SPL, because that is where the human ear has the flattest frequency response, and that is because of the equal loudness contours of our ears. And yes, I did read that online. If you mix quiet, listen to pro mixes loud, and then listen to yours. Many may be shocked at how their mixes kind of fall apart at higher listening levels. And what I mean by fall apart is that they kind of just sound a little bit harsher and the balance isn't completely perfect. Where, see, pro mixes, you listen to these mixes loud, right, 80 to 85 dB SPL in your headphones, those mixes just stay solid. They actually get better. If your ears are sensitive, then maybe start around maybe 70 dB, 75, and just bring it up over time. But definitely test it for yourself and try it out. Now, if you do decide to get planar headphones, it's very important to understand impedance. It's very important to check the impedance of your audio interface, as it needs to have the correct power to be able to drive the headphones that you're using. Now, there's more to it than just power. There's also distortion levels. You'll normally find that kind of budget audio interfaces, their headphone amps normally make more audible THD, and also their linear frequency response has higher tolerances. So some might be like +1 to -1 dB, some might be +0.5 dB to -0.5 dB, and some of them actually might have kind of certain curves, might have roll-offs, might have little bumps in the highs or the lows. So linearity is a really big part, in my opinion, when it comes to mixing on headphones. I'm just going to say it, right, because I think we all know that headphone amps are normally the cheapest part of an audio interface. Think about just like real estate. Think about the size of a headphone amp and think about the size of audio interfaces. Preamps, you've got the converters, you've got everything that goes into it, right? And again, they're kind of in a very kind of small package. So just think of it realistically, right? It makes sense that the headphone amp is probably going to be the thing that gets the least love, and that is why there are so many headphone amps on the market. But nobody seems to tell people this. People just seem to,
just stick the headphones straight into my audio interface and that'll be it. Lovely.
Now, I'm not saying that you can't mix on an audio interface headphone amp, but if we are taking mixing on headphones seriously, think about it. Like, you've got guys with, like, in acoustically treated rooms that pay thousands on monitors. Why wouldn't you kind of take this step up and increase the quality of your listening experience and your monitoring? Because honestly, right, okay, you've got THD, you've got linearity, and you've got power as well. But honestly, transients are a huge thing when it comes to headphone amps. All you have to do, right, get your interface. So I've got the Revelator IO24 sitting there from PreSonus. So I've got the line outs going into the RCA inputs of the Topping. So instead of going from your line outs to your monitors, you're going from your line outs into your headphone amp. And honestly, guys, the difference is unbelievable. That Topping L30 Mark II can power anything. I think its impedance is 1 ohm, and it's just, honestly, transients and soundstage. Am I going to say it? Fuck it, I'm going to say it. It's night and day. Honestly, get a Topping L30 Mark II or another headphone amp, but I do think that headphone amps there's a lot of brand stuff going on. The Rupert Neve stuff and the SPL Fonitor and stuff. It's all brand stuff and they're expensive, but they don't measure as well as stuff like Topping, and you don't need to spend that amount of money. Just trust the science, trust your ears, buy one if you plan on mixing on headphones with your audio interface. This is maybe going to be a little bit controversial, but you know what? I speak my truth, right? Buying a high-grade DAC is a vital investment when you're mixing on headphones. Now, I know I have done a video, right, like about, what was that, maybe a year and a half ago, talking about converters and how you don't lose quality if you're like printing analog gear through like audio interfaces like the Audient ID44 and stuff like that. Now, that's ADCs, that's analog to digital converters, right? That's for using gear. DAC, digital to analog conversion, is a different kettle of fish for me. There's a difference between printing gear in like listening back, right? So in terms of like Audient ID44, they've got dual converter technology. It's basically a fancy way of saying they've got two converters, one that does the ADC and one that does the DAC. But unbelievably, right, you guys are going to be shocked, right? I was doing my research and I was on Audio Science Review, and I was just looking at it and looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, and I was thinking about investing in an RME, because the RME is probably, until that came, is probably the staple for DACs, actually probably for interfaces altogether. RME, I think, I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called, but I'll put a wee text box in here. That interface is probably one of the best interfaces on the market. You can record with it because it's got the pre's, it's got an unbelievable headphone amp, and it's got top grade converters as well. Now, obviously, I'm a tight arse, so I was waiting on the right one to come up, and you'll notice that the ID44 isn't there anymore, because this thing right here is now taking pride of place, and it cost me like 700 quid. Yes, I know. And PayPal credit is a fantastic thing, isn't it? Fantastic thing. Just hit me up for 32 quid a month for however long it is. But it was a very, very, very worthwhile investment. It just measures so unbelievably well, and like the headphone amp in it is unbelievable as well. Honestly, like, this thing's like geeking out, like proper geeking out. You can, like, see with this thing, right, you can even change the filters. It's only the anti-aliasing filters. You got like 7 different filters, and you can different FIR filters, and you can choose different ones. In the manual, you can see what they all do and stuff. And there's even different modes. So you've got like a transistor mode and a valve mode, which the valve mode doesn't really do anything. Transistor mode sounds pretty good, get a little bit extra transients, but I wouldn't use them for mixing.
But either way.
I was so shocked at the difference. And you know I'm not a bullshitter, right? I say it how I hear it, right? Now I see it, how I hear it. There was a big, 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 big difference. And I had the Audient ID44 going out into the Topping L30 Mark II, which was already giving me a big difference. But just going into the DX7 Pro Plus, wow. The low end was more detailed, transients were slightly better, and the sound stage was unbelievable. I now get when people talk about like RME's conversion and stuff like that. It's the separation, it's the sound stage. And it's this thing where you hear details that you never heard before, but it's because of the sound stage, the separation. Like, I was listening to like a few Spike Stent mixes, and I could hear the backing vocals better. And I could just hear things better. I could hear more detail. I could even hear vocal effects more clearly. And there's an old saying, your end result is only as good as the weakest part of your chain. And that's why there is genuinely no point in paying £1,200 for like Odysseys, right? Or even like the new Manny Marquand like signature thing that came out, right? What, they 1,300? Like paying £1,300 and then sticking them through a cheap fucking headphone amp. Why would you spend that amount of money and not ensure that the signal going into those expensive headphones is as pure as possible? Because as everybody tells me, Paul, the reason I invest so much in monitoring is because you can't mix what you can't hear. And that is the exact same with headphones. How can you expect to get the same results as like Jason Joshua and Manny Marquand, Spike Stent and Serban if you can't hear the details that they're hearing? Obviously, right? You can't just hear things and go,
That's great, I'm going to mix like Serban now.
but you can't hear the full details, like especially transients. Honestly, I cannot tell you enough the difference in transients, the difference in separation. This is how these guys mix. They mix listening to that level of detail, that level of separation, having a better understanding of why these guys make the decisions they make, because you can hear them, is only going to benefit you, because you'll be able to do that yourself in your own way. So in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, stop buying fucking plugins unless you have already invested in as good a monitoring setup as you can physically get your hands on. And remember, that is coming from a certified Scottish tight arse. Remember, tight as a duck's arse. And there you have it. There you go. There's 10 things, even though I got lost in the middle. There's 10 things that you may or you may not already know about mixing on headphones, coming from a guy that mixes on headphones and has done a lot of research in regards to mixing on headphones. I'm getting better and better and better and better. I'm being able to hear more details because I've invested in that. Obviously, you still need to have the chops and the skills in the ear to be able to do it. However, how are you meant to train your ears for things that you can't fully hear? I'll leave you with that one. Message on a postcard. My name is Paul Third, and I'll see you again next week.